They told him to make me fall in love, and he did. But they forgot to tell me it was all a joke. Hi, my name is Claire, and this is the story of how I became the joke, and then the one who rewrote the joke. Grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and come with me, because sometimes the quietest girl leaves the loudest scars. I still remember the exact moment it hit me, like a slap across the face I never saw coming. I was scrolling through his phone, not because I suspected anything, but because he'd asked me to play a song he liked. One notification popped up. Just one. A group chat named Kings Only. I clicked it without thinking. What I saw made my heart cave in. A screenshot of me. My face. Captioned with "Bro, she fell hard, mission complete." My hand started shaking, but the rest of me just froze. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. I wasn't his girlfriend. I was a bet. We met at a coffee shop. Classic, right? I was the one behind the counter, smiling like my world wasn't quietly crumbling. He was charming in that movie scene kind of way, confident, a little cocky, but just enough to be intriguing. He made me laugh when I hadn't laughed in weeks. The first time he asked for my number, I almost said no. I was tired of men, of games, of always being the one who cared more. But there was something in the way he looked at me, like he saw me. Or so I thought. That's the thing about masks. They always feel real until they slip. He made it easy to fall. The late-night texts, the just thinking about you messages, the way he'd remember how I took my coffee. He met my friends, took me out, said the right things at the right time. And I melted. I told him things I hadn't told anyone. About my mom. About the ex who made me feel invisible. About how I used to write poetry but stopped because I didn't think anyone cared. He listened. Or pretended to. I didn't know back then that every vulnerable moment was being tallied up, turned into content for his friends to laugh at behind my back. I can't describe the sound that came out of me when I realized. It wasn't a cry. It was more like my soul cracked open and let out a noise I didn't know I had in me. I threw his phone onto the couch, backed into the wall, and just stood there, numb. My skin felt too tight. My mouth was dry. My legs wanted to give out. I kept whispering, no, no, no. Like if I said it enough, it would undo the truth. But truth doesn't work like that. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It just breaks in, takes everything, and dares you to survive it. I sat on his floor for an hour, maybe more. He wasn't home. Some guys were still chatting in the group, sending laughing emojis. One even wrote, "Bet you $50 she cries when you ghost her." I wish I could say I got angry, that I screamed or smashed something. But I didn't. I just felt erased, like I'd been wiped off the map of my own story. And the worst part, a tiny voice inside me whispered, "Of course this happened. What made you think you were different?" The memories played in my head like reruns I couldn't turn off. That night, he held my hand under the city lights. The way he kissed my forehead before dropping me off. The playlist he made me. All fake. All calculated. Suddenly, I couldn't tell what was real and what was performance. Did he ever like me at all? Was there any moment that wasn't a move in his little game? I felt like I was living in a lie wrapped in a dream wrapped in a trap. And the joke was me. I called my best friend, but she didn't answer. Left a voicemail I hope she never hears, my voice cracked and messy, like a kid who got lost in the mall. Then I turned off my phone. I didn't want to see another message, another face, another lie. I didn't cry right away. That came later. First came the numbness, the silence, the echo of betrayal crawling under my skin. I lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I ever let someone like him make me feel so seen. But that's what manipulators do, right? They study you, mirror you, make you feel special, just enough to keep you hooked. I didn't see the red flags because he wrapped them in charm. He didn't need to control me. I handed him the keys, thinking he was home. And now I'm locked out of everything I thought we were. The girl I was before him, she wouldn't recognize me. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Because something changed in me that day. Something cracked, yes. But something else, it woke up, a part of me that was tired of being the punchline, of being soft in a world that feeds on softness. So I got up, washed my face, and told myself one thing, over and over, until I believed it. He doesn't get the final chapter. I do. I couldn't stop replaying everything. Every hug, every whispered, "You're different," every damn smile. It was like my brain refused to shut up, rewinding our entire relationship with a new, cruel lens. I saw it now. The smirk behind his compliments. The way he always asked for selfies, but never posted a single one. The sudden interest in poetry after I mentioned I used to write. None of it was real. It was all curated, strategic, manipulative. I felt like I'd been living in a movie, only I wasn't the lead. I was the joke in the blooper reel. I stopped eating. Not on purpose. Just forgot how. My stomach turned at the thought of food. I spent 2 days in bed with the curtains shut and my thoughts louder than ever. I read and reread every message between us, picked apart every voice note. I even found one where he slipped and said, "This'll be good for the group." I had laughed at the time. God, I had laughed. I was so blinded by wanting to be loved that I didn't see I was entertainment. A trophy in a twisted contest. Not a person. Not to him. I finally got a message from one of his friends. Just one sentence. "You should have known better." No name. No context. Just that. And it broke something new in me. Because maybe they were right. Maybe I should have known better. Maybe love isn't for people like me. The ones who give too much. Who fall too fast. Who believe that softness is strength. Maybe this is why people build walls and stay detached. Because when you open your chest, some people only see a target. One night, I stood in front of the mirror and stared at myself. My eyes were hollow. My lips cracked. I didn't look like me. I didn't even feel human. Just a shell. Pretty enough to be chosen, but never enough to be cherished. I touched my own face like a stranger might. And then, like a whisper from somewhere deep inside, a question floated up. What if this pain isn't the end? What if it's the beginning of something they never saw coming? And that thought, it changed everything. I pulled myself together, just enough to go to his apartment. He wasn't expecting me. That was the point. I walked in with a calm he didn't deserve. "Forgot my charger," I said. He smiled, like nothing happened, like I wasn't unraveling inside. I watched him move, carefree, comfortable. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I left my phone recording in my coat pocket. I needed his voice. I needed proof. I asked him softly, "Did you ever really care about me?" And the silence before his answer told me everything. He said, "You're overreacting." Then, "It was just a stupid dare." And finally, "You're not the only one who got played." That one hit different, because it meant there were others. Girls like me. Names I'll never know. And maybe that's when it shifted. Maybe that's when I stopped crying and started planning. Because if I stayed silent, he'd keep doing this. Keep hurting women who just wanted to be seen. He wasn't just a bad boyfriend. He was dangerous in disguise. I went home and opened my laptop. I typed out everything I knew, dates, screenshots, quotes. I created a private folder and named it Proof. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew this. I wouldn't let this disappear. I wouldn't let him laugh about me in some bar 10 years from now. I wouldn't be his origin story for how he learned to settle down. No, he wouldn't get to rewrite me like that. I'd take the pen back, even if my hands were still shaking. I stopped answering his texts. He called once, left a voicemail that started with, "Babe," and ended with, "Don't ruin this for me." That line stayed with me. "Don't ruin this for me." As if I was the villain. As if he was the one who needed protection. That's when I knew he wasn't sorry. Not even close. He was just afraid of consequences. And I was done being afraid of him. But the thing that pushed me over the edge was the video. A screen recording, buried in a shared album I almost missed. He was with his friends, laughing, talking about how easy I was. I watched them reenact our first kiss like it was a comedy sketch. That was it. That was the moment I stopped being broken and started becoming something else. I didn't leave my apartment for 4 days. I turned off every notification, shut the blinds, and let the silence swallow me whole. I deleted photos, but then found myself digging through the trash folder like some desperate archaeologist, trying to piece together who I used to be before all this. The girl in those photos smiled with her whole face. She believed in people, believed in him. I sat on the floor with those images open, blurry from my tears, and whispered, who even was she? Because I didn't recognize her anymore. And a part of me hated her, hated how hopeful she looked. I stopped brushing my hair, stopped answering friends, let dishes pile up until the sink looked like a war zone. Every time I walked past a mirror, I flinched. My body felt like a costume I didn't want to wear. I couldn't sleep without seeing his face, couldn't breathe without hearing their laughter from that video. I wanted to shrink, to vanish, to never have existed. But pain has a strange way of sharpening you, of carving out everything soft and leaving behind something raw. And one night, staring at the ceiling, I said it out loud. I can't stay like this. I got up, showered, dressed in something black, not for drama, but for clarity. I needed to feel grounded. I walked to the coffee shop where we met, just to sit in the same corner and remind myself that I existed before him, that I was whole before the lie. I sipped my drink in silence, and for the first time I didn't cry. I just observed. People talking, laughing, moving on, and I realized the world keeps spinning, even when your heart breaks, maybe especially when it breaks. And I had a choice, stay shattered or stand back up. Back home, I pulled out my old notebook, the one I hadn't touched in over a year. Pages yellowed, corners bent. I flipped to a blank page and just started writing. Not about him, not about the pain, about me, what I loved, what I feared, what I forgot. My handwriting was shaky, like my hands weren't sure if they had permission to hope again. But with each sentence, I felt something return. A flicker, a thread, a spark I thought he'd stolen for good. But no one gets to take your voice unless you hand it to them. And I was done handing things over. The next day, I posted a quote on my story. Just a line from my journal. She bloomed silently where no one expected. He viewed it. I know because I checked. Twice. Then I turned off the views. I didn't need to know anymore. I wasn't writing for him. I was writing for the girl who sat in the dark and almost disappeared. For every woman who's ever been laughed at in a chat she wasn't meant to see. I wasn't healed. Not even close. But I wasn't hiding anymore either. That was a start. That night I dreamt of fire. Not destruction, more like purification. I saw myself walking through flames, barefoot, unbothered. And when I woke up, I smiled for the first time in weeks. A real smile. Small, but mine. I opened my folder labeled proof and looked through it again. Not with grief. With purpose. There was power in truth. And I was finally strong enough to decide what to do with it. Not out of revenge. Not to hurt him. But to reclaim what was stolen, my dignity. I started recording voice notes, practicing what I'd say if I ever confronted him. Some were messy. Some were poetic. Some just silent tears and deep breaths. But they were mine. Honest. Raw. Real. I imagined him listening, not because I wanted him to feel bad, but because I wanted me to hear it. To hear myself speak truth again. Every note felt like a stitch pulling my broken pieces back together. Every confession was a step out of the dark. I didn't have a plan yet, but I had my voice. And that was enough. Then something unexpected happened. One of his friends, the one who sent that cruel message, messaged me again. But this time it was different. A single sentence. He's done this before. I didn't know how bad it was. That cracked something open. Not all of them were laughing. Some just stayed quiet. Complicit in their silence, yes. But maybe not evil. I didn't respond. Just screenshotted it. Saved it. And felt the shift begin. This wasn't just about me anymore. So I started mapping it out. Not revenge, exposure. Not rage, reclamation. I wrote down names, moments, patterns. Drew lines. Built timelines. I was tired of being the girl in the story that ends in silence. I didn't want pity. I wanted the truth out in the light. Not for likes, not for drama, for healing, for justice, for every girl who thought she was special, only to learn she was a dare. And somewhere deep in my bones I knew they thought I would disappear. But I was just getting ready to be seen. I smiled when I saw him again, not because I'd forgiven anything, but because I'd learned something he didn't expect. Control isn't about screaming, it's about silence. He hugged me like nothing had happened. I let him. He kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch. "Missed you," he said, with that same crooked grin. I nodded, soft and warm, like butter wouldn't melt in my mouth. But inside I was ice. I studied him the way he once studied me. Every word, every gesture. This time, I was the one taking notes. The guy who started it all thought I was back, that I was still a fool who believed in him. He didn't know I had hours of voice memos, screenshots, and saved clips. He didn't know I'd spent nights listening to old calls, memorizing his tone when he lied. I smiled through coffee dates and fake laughs. Let him think he was still winning. He talked about plans for our future. I held his hand, told him I was lucky, and every time I said it, I saw a flicker of pride in his eyes, pride in breaking me. But pride comes before the fall. I started posting again. Subtle things. Not about him. Just moments of strength. Me at a museum. Me with my old friends. A shot of my journal beside a candle. He messaged, "You look happier lately." I replied, "I feel more like myself." He read it twice. Left me unseen. I knew what I was doing. I was pulling him closer, lulling him into a comfort he hadn't earned. I wasn't cruel. I was deliberate. There's a difference. And soon, that difference would matter. The turning point came during a dinner with his friends. I hadn't seen them in weeks. He said they wanted to catch up, that they miss me. I dressed carefully, soft curls, no makeup, just a sweater that made me look gentle. Forgettable. They laughed and joked like nothing had changed. I sat between two of them and listened as they tripped over stories, as one accidentally called me number 3. I tilted my head, smiled, and asked, "What do you mean?" Silence. Flushed cheeks. Eyes darting. Gotcha. After that, the mask slipped a little. He texted less. Got defensive when I asked simple things. "You don't trust me anymore," he said one night. "You're acting weird." I wanted to laugh. Now I was the one acting weird. I told him I was just tired, that I needed space. He started calling more, leaving long voicemails. I didn't pick up, not because I couldn't, because I wanted him to feel it, the slow unraveling, the same helpless confusion I once felt. Only now, I was the one holding the thread. I began talking to one of the girls he used to date, the one he swore was crazy. Funny how men use that word to dismiss women who got too close to the truth. She replied fast. Too fast. "You too," she wrote. That was all it took. We spoke for hours. Compared notes. Dates. Details. He reused lines. The same compliments. Same spots. Same lies. I documented everything. We weren't victims anymore. We were witnesses. And witnesses tell stories. He tried to get ahead of it. I know he did. He deleted messages, archived group chats, probably even warned his friends. But you can't erase a history people have memorized. You can't silence what's already been seen. And while he was busy scrubbing his tracks, I was writing my story. Not for revenge. For release. For every girl who'd ever cried herself to sleep because someone saw her as a game. I wasn't crying anymore. I was preparing. Then came the invite. His birthday party. A big one. Friends, family, coworkers, all in one place. I RSVP'd with a soft yes and a smiley face. He sent a heart back. He had no idea I'd already chosen the dress I'd wear. Simple, soft pink, with a neckline that said sweet, and a smile that said watch me. I wasn't going there to explode. I was going to end it. Quietly. Clearly. Permanently. And when I walked in that night, it wouldn't be as his girl. It would be as the storm he didn't see coming. Because some people play games with hearts. But forget, hearts can grow teeth. And I had every intention of showing mine. The air inside the party was too sweet, like sugar trying to hide something rotten. Music played. Glasses clinked. Everyone smiled just a little too wide. I walked in slowly, feeling eyes follow me, some surprised, some confused. I hadn't been around in weeks. And yet, here I was, calm, composed, unbothered. My dress caught the light with every step. My heart beat steady, not from fear, from power. Because tonight, I wasn't the girl being laughed at in secret. I was the woman with the mic. He found me near the drinks table. "You came," he said, grinning. "Of course," I replied. "Wouldn't miss your big night." He leaned in to kiss my cheek. I tilted away, just slightly, enough for him to notice. He frowned for half a second before masking it. I asked where the speeches would be. He blinked. "Speeches?" "Yeah," I smiled. "I thought we'd all say a few words. Celebrate you properly." He laughed, unsure. But he said okay. Because what else could he say? People started gathering near the center of the room. Someone tapped a glass for attention. He stood beside me, waiting for me to say something sweet. To validate him. To make him look good. And for a second, I let him believe that. I held the mic like it was nothing. Like it wasn't about to become my weapon. I looked around. Faces I knew. Some I didn't. I cleared my throat. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began. My voice was steady. Clear. Too clear. "I used to think I was lucky," I said, smiling at him. Lucky to have someone like him notice me. Love me. Teach me what real felt like. I saw him nod, slightly confident, still unaware. "But then I learned something," I continued. "That sometimes what feels like love is just manipulation in costume." The room stilled. No one laughed. He shifted beside me. "Sometimes," I said, "a challenge is made. A dare. Make her fall for you. And when she does, a laugh. Gasps. Silence. One glass shattered in the distance. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I just told the truth. Plain. Undeniable. I was part of a game I never agreed to play. And I wasn't the first. I looked at him then. Fully. No more pretending. But I will be the last. I stepped back. Pulled out a flash drive. Inserted it into the screen behind me. Video played. Faces froze. Voices echoed. His words. His laughter. Their cheers. Me. My image. My pain. Captured. Exposed. His face drained of color. He reached for the mic. I pulled it back. "No," I said. "Just one word. Enough." He looked around. No one met his eyes. His friends avoided him. Some stepped away. One girl mouthed "thank you" at me. I nodded. This wasn't revenge. This was reckoning. And it was long overdue. He followed me outside, breathless. "Why would you do this?" he demanded. "You ruined my life." I turned slowly, looked him right in the eyes. "You ruined mine for fun," I said. "Now we're even." He started to say more, but I walked away. Not in anger. Not in triumph. In peace. Pure earned peace. The kind that only comes when you stop shrinking to make others comfortable. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had said what needed to be said. Done what needed to be done. The lies were no longer mine to carry. The truth was out, and it was louder than all their jokes combined. I walked home under a sky full of stars, feeling lighter than I had in months. I wasn't broken anymore. I was free. But even then, as I closed my front door behind me, I knew one thing with absolute clarity. He thought the party was a celebration, but it ended up being my rebirth. The morning after the party, the world felt different. Not louder. Not brighter. Just clearer. I sat by my window with coffee in hand, watching light crawl over the buildings. For the first time in months, I wasn't rehearsing fake scenarios in my head. I wasn't trying to decode lies or anticipate silence. I just breathed. Deep, slow, present. There was no more pretending. No more waiting for someone to text, apologize, explain. That chapter had ended, publicly, completely on my terms. I didn't hear from him again. Not directly. But I saw the ripple. A few of his friends unfollowed me quietly, while others messaged apologies that felt too little, too late. I didn't respond. I wasn't angry, just done. Closure didn't come wrapped in neat words. It came in the silence I chose, in the peace I created, in the realization that I didn't need him to say he was sorry. I didn't need his guilt. I had my truth, and that was louder than any apology he could offer. Some people called me brave. Others said I was cruel, that I should have handled it privately, that boys will be boys. But here's the thing. Boys don't destroy girls for sport. Grown men don't turn love into a joke. And women who speak out, we're not cruel. We're tired of being props in someone else's game. I wasn't a bet. I was a person. And he didn't just lose me, he lost the right to define me. I started writing again. Not as therapy, as testimony. I told stories, some mine, some borrowed, all rooted in truth. My words became a map out of the fog. Girls started messaging me. Some had been through worse. Some were still stuck. You gave me courage, one wrote. I cried reading that. Not from pain, from purpose. Maybe what I went through wasn't just about me. Maybe it was a torch, passed from one survivor to the next. I changed my number, dyed my hair. Small things, but symbolic, like turning the page. I stopped walking like I was bracing for impact. Stopped shrinking my laughter to seem cool. I went to new places, traveled alone, took photos that weren't for anyone but me. And every day I whispered something into the mirror. You are not the girl they tried to erase. I said it until I believed it, until I came back. One afternoon, I ran into someone new. Not romantically, just a moment. He held the door open, said I looked like someone who knew where she was going. I smiled. Not always, I said, but I know where I'm not going back to. He laughed, and that was it. No spark, no butterflies. Just a reminder, connection exists. Trust is possible. Healing is slow but real. And I was allowed to take my time. I kept the dress I wore to his party, not out of nostalgia, out of reverence. It reminded me of the moment I stopped begging to be chosen and chose myself. It wasn't armor. It was memory, proof that softness doesn't mean weakness, and truth doesn't need to scream to be heard. Sometimes, the quietest voice can echo the loudest when it speaks from a place of power. I no longer check who's watching my stories. I no longer read between lines that were never meant for me. I no longer accept crumbs and call it love. And if I ever fall again, truly fall, it won't be because someone made it a challenge. It'll be because I see something real in their eyes. And because I know, now, how to see clearly, how to walk away, how to survive. So yes, maybe to him, I was just a dare, a joke, a game. But to myself, I was the beginning of a story he'll never be part of again. Claire wasn't the girl they erased. She became the one they couldn't ignore. And to every girl who's been lied to, played, mocked, hear this. You are not the bet. You are the lesson, the turning point, the moment he lost control. If you like this story, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and if you want to help me keep telling these stories, you can buy me a coffee. The link is there in the first pinned comment. Every cup helps me keep bringing you more stories.